All right, so moving to the Middle East, and we're really going to use this lecture as an opportunity to talk about the effect of, or the potential effect of religion on growth. And we're going to also just specifically look at the role of Islam. Okay, so, and the reason for this is there's a narrative out there that Islam is somehow incompatible with growth. That the reason why the Middle East maybe lags behind the rest of the world is because of Islam. So we're going to examine this, but we're going to zoom out first to just think about how might religion affect growth. So how might this relationship work in terms of the type of religion you have? How might that affect your economic performance, either at the individual level or at the country level? We'll be talking about it mostly at the country level, but then also the reverse. So we kind of have two variables here. So one could cause the other, or the causality could go the other way. So how might growth affect religion as your country gets richer? What might that mean for religion in your country? And these are very big questions, and they're very interesting to think about. So you might want to, I don't know, spend some time just just chewing on them. All right. So first, we're going to look at this link between religion and economic growth. So we've already talked about it a little bit in the context of Protestantism, where it would, and also Judaism, where it has encouraged literacy. But you could also think about it in the terms of, on the individual level, people who, if they become religious and then they stop doing certain vices like alcohol or drugs, that would make them more productive, maybe lead to, a stronger work ethic, more likely to save. And then also, if your community is religious, that might facilitate economic exchange. So if I know that you are of the same religion to me, I might trust you more. So, I mean, recently there was a contractor trying to rip my grandma off. Um, and my brother and I had to step in and be like, yo, this contractor's trying to rip you off. And my grandma was like, nah, nah, nah. He's a good Christian. He's a good Christian. Like, he's not trying to rip me off. He wouldn't do that because he's Christian. We're like, grandma, Christian or not, this dude's ripping you off. We're going to fire him. Anyways. But that's, so theoretically, we could have this relationship between religion and growth. Now, there also could be a negative relationship. Some religions prohibit certain markets, so there's a prohibition on, say, pork or alcohol. Those markets may shut down. Or, more broadly, and we'll get into this later, in many religions, there's a prohibition on lending money with interest. So you can see this might inhibit growth. If I need to raise money to invest in something and I can't borrow with interest, or nobody will want to lend me money unless there's interest. So that might kind of cause stagnation or inhibit projects from getting off the ground. So these are kind of like the theoretical relationships. And then, of course, in the most extreme sense, this is the Amish, where there might just be an express prohibition on electricity, in which case, obviously, this is going to have a large effect on economic growth. Reverse on the other way, how might economic growth affect religion? Well, the big one here is that as a society gets richer, the government tends to provide more goods, or tends to provide more, like the welfare state. They tend to provide, there's certain insurance in place for the elderly, for the poor, and a lot of these services, were previously provided by religion or churches. So, the church would say it's our obligation to take care of widows or orphans. And this gives people an implicit benefit for participating in the religion. Like, hey, if something bad happens to me or my family, I know that the church and the church community will take care of me. So as the government starts providing those things, starts providing things like Social Security and welfare, or healthcare for low-income individuals, then all of a sudden this one thing the church used to do is being done by the government. So there's less benefit for me to participate in organized religion, and therefore we may see a decline in religion in places that become richer. All right, so this is what I cover here. And this is largely what we see, that as societies get richer, um, they get less religious. The exception was the United States, although the United States is quickly becoming less religious, or the traditional religions are waning in their popularity. I would argue there are other religions kind of taking their place, but the traditional religions, organized religions, are certainly waning. Okay, and so here we have that. Here's just a graph that kind of shows that relationship, where we have, here is GDP per capita on the x-axis. Here is I can't speak today. Religiosity on the y-axis. So you can see what tends to happen is your poor countries are much more religious than your richer countries. Although we have a few countries down here that kind of have these are countries that have a legacy of communism. And you could also think of communism as its own form of a religion, but it's not a traditional religion. So you have these ones are less religious. Again, we have Japan, and then you see the U.S. is a bit of an outlier in terms of how religious it is relative to its wealth. Okay. And so we have there's other questions here. How do governments themselves influence religion in terms of promoting it or discouraging it? As we've seen both cases throughout history. You could think of a state-sponsored church as a form of promoting it. Although if you think of religion as like a market, this actually may hinder religiosity, because if the state is doing it, there's less competition in the market for religions. Therefore, religious services are of lower quality. And so this may lower religiosity. So I said a bunch of econ stuff. Let me clarify what I'm talking about. So, you think of if the state is saying this is the religion, and hey, this is the state religion, this is the only religion we're really going to sanction or fund, and that's granting them a monopoly, that whatever that religion may be. Okay. And so there's less incentive for that religion to appeal to people because they're being backed by the state. Think about the U.S. The U.S. has no state religion. We have a bunch of different religious sects or whatever, and so therefore I have to appeal to people. I have to appeal to consumers if I am a church. So I have to make a fancy church service. So, if you go to a modern Christian church, there's a rock band playing. The pastor, he's real cool and hip and he's real funny. Part of that is I need to get an audience. And so in a country without a state-sponsored religion, you may see that competition develop and therefore get higher religiosity because the product is better. Okay, so that's basically what I'm referring to here on this slide. Okay, let's take a break.